So the goals of this talk today are firstly to share our story, secondly to illustrate the natural extension of a NISQIP program into planetary health, and lastly and most importantly, convince you that you can do this too. So, like many good stories, this one begins with a coffee date. I had actually just returned from maternity leave this past April and reached out to connect with one of my colleagues, Dr. Anna Guns. Anna is a pediatric intensivist at LHSC and founding member of the Children's Environmental Health Clinic in Ontario. And she's actually the lead investigator for Nature for Healing and has been a very strong advocate for environmentally sustainable practices at Children's Hospital and LHSC. She was very eager to tell me about her passions for planetary health. And then most importantly, she actually highlighted an opportunity to collaborate with me given my expertise and interest in quality improvement in my role as a surgeon, and specifically directed me towards the operating room and the potential for the intersection of planetary health and the operating room. And so after this, the gears were turning and a bunch of emails ensued. I really needed to make connections to see, firstly, what was already being done at my center for this, and what better way to do this than to reach out to the champions of quality improvement. So I reached out to Pat Colquhoun, who is our chair of Surgical Quality Council, and he's also one of our surgeon champions at University Hospital. And at that same time, Dave Smith had started the Planetary Health Working Group. And so quickly through email introductions, I'd been connected with a number of the people that you're hearing from today. Anna actually already had great connections at LHSC, especially with our waste and energy advisors who had already been doing some work with this. And then also importantly, more frontline staff, so OR nurse managers. Because of the pandemic, a lot of the green team initiatives had been put on hold, but I think, people were eager to restart this. And then further connections through my own department as well. I think, a lot of us are familiar with Kotter's model for leading change. It's widely recognized in the field of organizational change, and he's coined these 8 necessary steps. And I think, the formation of a new committee really starts with the first 3. And so firstly is to create a sense of urgency. Hussein, you already heard speak today, which is absolutely phenomenal. And, really starting with the why. So as we know, climate change is the most significant threat to global health. I won't go into any more detail, but our operating rooms are responsible for a large portion of this in terms of environmental impact. The next thing that we needed to do was to build a guiding coalition. So certainly you need a leader. And, I kind of, put myself into that role because I was so interested to see what was going on and really try to identify stakeholders, not just from within our surgical services, but, also from our organization, nursing, infection prevention and control, and really anybody who could be identified. And really, our initial list that we made of potential stakeholders wasn't exhaustive. And that's actually continued to increase. And so really this comes down to harnessing the power of NISQIP. And so why NISQIP? We know that NISQIP has a proven track record, really looking at data, identifying areas for improvement, setting SMART goals, performance measures, implementing change ideas, studying and reporting in a rigorous way, and really looking at healthcare outcomes and quality of care, and that triple bottom line that we've heard about. Most importantly is that our NISQIP organizations within our individual hospital systems have connections. We've gone through, we've made significant changes over the years, and really integrating planetary health into leveraging these connections is really important. And so I'll take you through the composition of our working group here. So here's our surgeon group. You can see next to my picture on the top row, we have Ken Leslie. He is the surgeon champion here at Victoria Hospital, and then Pat Colquhoun, he's the surgeon champion at University Hospital, and also the chair of Surgical Quality Council. And then we also have representation from a variety of other surgical groups. This slide is super, super important. As with any of our NISQIP programs, you can see our surgical quality improvement facilitator and SCR, Celia Dan. Mike Dorward is our data analyst and SCR. Rachel Cooper, I don't have her picture here, but she's a data administrator and SCR. And then Jake Davidson, he's our research associate through pediatric surgery, and certainly central when we are studying change ideas and, thinking about ethics and project plans and things like that. And together, Celia and Jake are project managers overall for our committee. Really central is partnering with anesthesiologists. A lot of planetary health focused interventions will have to do with anesthesia. You've heard about desflurane already. And so we have great representation from that. And then also a physician who's not a surgeon and not an anesthesiologist, Anna. And it's nice to be able to partner with somebody outside of our typical circle as well. From nursing, we have nurse managers, and then, it's honestly, as this committee has kind of come to fruition, we've had people kind of reach in saying, hey, Noah, for example, is really interested in recycling and is championing that part. How can we bring him in and work towards the same goal and to help work with us? From facilities, we have Mike Apostle and John Vecchio in there, the energy management and environmental waste specialists, respectively. And, we always love data, and they have a lot of data for us to look at. And they are also very passionate about this and extending their reach into the operating room, where it would be normally difficult for them to, come into unless they have those appropriate connections. And then we have representation from IPAC. And then we decided, ad hoc members as they come up, and certainly partnering with patient partners is important as well. And so you can see here that we have a diverse group, and central, obviously, to our organization for this is the connections with NSQIP. So, NSQIP and then pediatric NSQIP as well, because we are a children's hospital within a greater hospital system. And then we needed a name for a committee. And so we came up with ORFIT, the Planetary Health Intervention Team. So from that, we needed to form a strategic vision and initiatives. And so really we needed to understand, what is our baseline performance? I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with the Toronto Academic Health System Network Sustainability Operating Room Fillable Scorecard. So that was really helpful to help look at our current performance and act as a benchmark moving forward. I also recall, Dave Smith, he always said, put on those green lenses and, consider yourself in the, walking through your operating room. What are your opportunities for improvement? So we are actually going to formally do a photo documentation of this. We have we're going to follow a 6-year-old tonsillectomy patient, because I'm an ENT surgeon. So I wanted to do one of my own patients and follow them from check-in till discharge from hospital. And then what we'll be able to do is to take a close look at that through a green lens and see how we are currently doing and, what are our opportunities for improvement. This is the Sustainable Operating Room Fillable Scorecard that some of you may be familiar with. It's been really great in helping us to organize a lot of our initiatives. We took the themes from that, and those actually are our targets that we are looking at. So firstly, anesthetic gases, secondly, the reusables, thirdly, waste management, and lastly, energy management. I also had this grand idea to submit for a grant proposal. So I think, that helped with a lot of our organization for our overall goals for our committee. So we developed SMART goals, following QI methodology for each of these areas. So things like reducing the use of desflurane and nitrous oxide by 30% over a 1-year period, to reduce the amount of waste generated by the ORs that's going directly to the landfill by 50% over a 2-year period, to promote the use of reusable items instead of single-use items, to reduce the amount of energy. And then lastly, we're partnering with Western University and Western's sustainability program to understand the attitudes and beliefs of hospital staff and patients and caregivers on environmental sustainability in the OR, and to see whether or not this impacts actually their workplace satisfaction or experience satisfaction with their own surgical care. So we have to think, how can we take some of these metrics and how can we use our NSQIP database and data collection for this? So one of the first ways that we've started doing this is a custom NSQIP field for collection of which inhalational anesthetic gas was used. We are looking at reusables. I think, what Dave just showed about the bring your own reusable bag program, that is definitely something we are looking into as well. Interestingly enough, when I started at LHSC about 7 years ago, we weren't able to wear our cloth scrub caps, but we are able to now. And, certainly, it's always nice to see exciting scrub caps, and often a vector for conversation sometimes in the OR. So here's part of our group. A lot of this data is available. I'm not sure of the accuracy of this data right now, but I think purchasing data does tend to be quite accurate. So, a lot of this is accessible. So the number of reusable garment bags, disposable scrub caps, and gowns. To notice, or to note is, what is the planetary impact about this? And
see your hernia.
We can determine, the cost, and, we know that using less reusable products are better for the environment, but what is the actual planetary benefit of this? And, certainly a lot of that includes life cycle analysis and complicated things, but if we can figure out how to translate that into meaningful outcomes, then that will help with the understanding of this for sure. Then we're also looking at waste management. We had already participated in quarterly waste audits. So that is a way to continue to measure those metrics. Putting on my green lens, going back to my world in ENT surgery. So we have a minor procedure room, which is just in an area within the main operating room. And this is blue wrap waste. You can see on the right picture there, those are how each of our ear tube trays are wrapped. And then it's laid out on the floor there. And we don't currently have a blue wrap program, and that actually all goes to waste. It's not soiled, but that's currently the status. So that's a bit shocking. And that's just a half day of ear tubes. So if you extrapolate that to what's happening, not even just in our hospital, but Southwestern Ontario and beyond, that's quite significant. It was kind of interesting because I went to do a set of ear tubes one day in the minor procedure room, and they actually had a double pack. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing, because usually the tubes that we were having would come in single packs. And so I went to the OR because it's a different procurement team for there, and said, hey, can we get these double packs? Most of the time we're putting in two ear tubes. So look, this is half the waste that's being generated. And of course, there's always a little obstacle. So fill out this NTAT form, but now we actually have the double packs available in our main OR too. So that's great. Another barrier, is which is recycling, and this may be your OR, this may not be. So this is in my room, OR 10, and I looked at these and I said to Noah, I'm like, which one is the recycling bin? Like both of them look like recycling bins. And he said, oh, it's the one with the blue bag. That's the recycling. It is actually quite limited what can be recycled. He had developed a nice new poster saying, these things can be recycled, these things cannot. And then when he actually sat down with our waste management team, I think only 28% of those items could actually be recycled. So certainly, reducing waste is super, super important. And then energy management is the other component, and lots of ideas here that I won't go into. We really want to explore new initiatives. So a Blue Wrap program, I know, through Dave Smith's Planetary Health Working Group, there are monthly meetings where you can hear about success stories from other groups. And certainly that's a really great way to, get other ideas of what to move forward with. We actually do participate in Stryker Sustainability Solutions. And so that's the program where they actually process certain surgical instruments to be reused at a reduced cost. And there's been great studies that show that is safe for patient care and use without a negative impact on morbidity. And so aside from the posters, though, it was really hard to determine, to what extent are we participating in it? So we've made connections to that rep, and I'm certain that there are opportunities to further our involvement with that initiative. Stakeholder engagement is super important as well. So part of our grant proposal was really to get funding for a planetary health focused reusable scrub cap for everyone in the OR. Wouldn't it be nice to have green scrub caps or, with green earths on them? Really just to try to inspire people to participate in planetary health. We've also thought about things like friendly competitions between our hospital sites and celebrating successes, and OR green boards and local green champions. The thing that we don't actually currently have at LHSC is that sustainability is not a current priority in our organization's strategic plan. But, I think that will come. And, maybe that's the same as some of your hospitals. However, we do have the support from Surgical Quality Council, our NSQIP surgeon champions, and those involved with NSQIP. So certainly partnering with NSQIP has been vital for this. And then we've continued to build connections. We are also trying to partner with St. Joe's Healthcare in London. Obviously, the support of the ONSQUIN Planetary Health Working Group has been really excellent. The Ontario Anesthesiologists Environmental Sustainability Working Group has amazing resources, especially surrounding the use of desflurane and eliminating its use. Partnering with Cascades Canada, and you'll hear from Nicole Sims next, and Hussein Malou, who you've also heard from. And really, we do plan to outreach to the other Southwestern Ontario hospitals as well. So to revisit our goals, hopefully this has helped to share a story. We are only at the beginning of this. We're only about 6 months in, but hopefully this will be inspiring. And hopefully I've managed to show you how our NSQIP program has been instrumental in launching this OR Fit committee for us. And hopefully, you realize that you do have the tools to do this at your own center and that you can do this too. So going back to Kotter's 8 steps for leading change, a lot of the talks today have centered around this. And, I think Nicole will probably chat a little bit more about the Cascades Fundamental course and how to give us that planetary health literacy and some more tools to make impactful changes within our own centers for this. And central to that is our relationship with NSQIP. And so these are my two littles. And this is actually one of the 4 change principles from that Kotter's model. So head and heart. So most people aren't inspired by logic alone, but rather by the fundamental desire to contribute to a larger case. If you can give greater meaning and purpose to your effort, extraordinary results are possible. And I certainly think that this is the sentiment of planetary health. We all, for the most part, practice this in our day-to-day lives. And it is something that's near or dear to us. And I think, like it's been mentioned, we all have a lot of eco anxiety, but how can we translate this into eco action? And really, I think if we are targeting, the head and heart of that, we will do great things and we will involve people. And I think that, that engagement will help to move this agenda forward.